Welcome to Fiery Discourse, your podcast and media featuring dragonesses, female dinosaurs, and other similar saurians and scalies. I'm your host, Ludmillanon, and with me are my co-hosts, Angron, Lucky Eevee, Mathmachine, the Shark, Jordan, Stryker, and our special guest today is Sharvoun. Today is our 87th episode, and we're discussing the 2024 animated movie, The Tiger's Apprentice. So,
Cover your
let's
butt.
get things started.
It's the eye of the tiger, it's the will of the fan.
Yeah, but that's going to come into play later on. Yep. We'll talk more about that element of it in a little bit. But to give a start off, The Tiger's Apprentice started life as a book before being greenlit as a movie in 2009. Now, this movie apparently was passed around from studio to studio for several years before finally being picked up by Paramount Animation in 2019 for a release date of March 2022 rather. Now, the behind-the-scenes ongoings with this movie apparently had a really troubled production. Some animators claim they were treated extremely poorly. Others claim they had to do like 5 jobs in one. Basically, this has all of the... this kind of production is very similar to the equally forgotten movie Escape from Planet Earth, and that this is an animated movie that seemed to really go through a lot just to get made. And was it worth it? We will have to see. But
Unlike,
go ahead.
First of all, unlike Escape from Planet Earth, there's no Eevee producers, and second, usually a troubled production doesn't always mean a bad movie. I mean, the Spider-Verse movies have kind of a troubled production, but they certainly aren't bad movies. But as we're about to see, we'll see if this really holds any water.
Yeah, I'll also say that, unlike Escape from Planet Earth, this one is honestly a little lesser than that. Planet Earth had comedy, and at least had a few other interesting things that I absolutely will stick by. There's like 4 or 5 things that I'll stick by, but we'll get to them when we do. Shark?
Mm-hmm.
When Ludmilla was commenting on another project that had trouble production, I thought he was going to mention the food fight. And
God!
Well, thankfully, this isn't as bad as Food Fight. The production.
Or Future War.
This is better than Food Fight, but at the same time, keyword is better.
Yeah, better does not necessarily mean good. And yeah, this movie went direct to Paramount Plus in February 2024. Basically almost 2 years after it was supposed to come out, and it had extremely little fanfare there. Go ahead.
Yeah.
You were saying, Angron?
Yeah, and basically, this is basically, though, I will say this. Them putting it on Paramount Plus was a good call. If they put it in theaters, that would have been career suicide right there. Unlike Disney, who did the opposite.
True.
Pour one out for Lightyear.
They basically sorry.
All good. Continue.
Honestly, they were like, let's put Luca on streaming and Lightyear on theaters. We'll totally make money and not look like a bunch of fools. One box office later, it was clearly the gay kiss that really killed the box office. Let's try to stray away from that.
Okay. I mean, they still made money, but they definitely looked like fools.
Let's not get sidetracked. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyways, Tiger's Apprentice, another bomb. Let's do it.
So anyway, the movie itself begins in Hong Kong in 2009. We see an older woman, Mrs. Lee, and her grandson, are driving alongside a road with the woman listening to music as fireworks go off. It's revealed to be the Lunar New Year, but all of a sudden the radio immediately goes haywire. She notices a series of mysterious lights behind her, but unfortunately, this is not a Chinese version of Paper Moon, as much fun as that would be. The mysterious light instead turns out to be a Yao Guai that chases them. And Mrs. Lee basically drives as fast as possible as the Yao Guai continues to pursue them. And it's here where we get to the first of many, many problems with this movie. Because the song they choose to score this scene is none other than the rap classic Apple Bottom Jeans.
Ugh.
Y-
Can I say something? Can I?
Go ahead, Sharvoun.
Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is the first big problem. The soundtracks. When it's orchestra, it's good. When it's songs, they usually suck. They're kind of like what Doug Walker once said about Phil Collins from Tarzan. Except this time, not only does it feel unnecessary, but it just feels dated as all heck. Like when I heard that, I was like, oh yeah, this was definitely in production for a long ass time. Like, and it also gets in the way of a lot of the emotional stuff that, in truth, the soundtrack is not only unnecessary, but it just dates the film so severely.
Yeah, it definitely feels like they were trying to rip off something like they were trying to be their own thing, but were also inspired by Kung Fu Panda and decided to take that and sort of rip it off. And then years later, while they were working on it, they saw Rise of the Guardians. They were like, write that down. And it clearly shows here. It clearly looks cookie cutter, even though it kind of has its own thing going on, and it 100% shows.
So, Math, you were saying?
We said that this was from 2009, and I am dead certain that what happened here is because they started production back then, they got the licenses for a bunch of songs from that era, and they just never updated that as production kept being pushed further and further back. So a bunch of the songs we got are from that era because of that.
Yeah, they got the licenses,
definitely...
but they... Oh, continue.
No, I was going to say, yeah, that definitely makes sense that this movie was in production for so long that a song that would have been somewhat of the time now just looks hilariously dated, you know?
Yeah, it absolutely feels like they were it feels like at the time they were like seeing what was hip and were keeping that, but as production went on, it 100% kind of derailed. Yeah, there are a lot of times where development hell can test people. This definitely feels like one of those moments where it not only tested the people, but the project they were working on, and the strain definitely shows. Sharvoun?
Honestly, if you want to... Another problem is that the song itself is hilariously out of place. Like, it doesn't fit at all. Like, it's just... Honestly, if you want an example of songs fitting into action well, go watch Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. It has a killer soundtrack, and it knows how to use the songs effectively.
I will say this about Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, though. They had their own tracks made for that. Like, even the remix of Just the Two of Us, which involved Bill Withers, was its own original sort of thing.
I know, but I'm just trying to point out how to incorporate modern songs into action.
Your turn, Lud.
But yeah, like I say, what happens is, and again, the song is so ill-fitting, apple-bottom jeans, for the action that we see on screen, which one of the Yao Guai lands in the windshield, but it's crushed by the wiper. Another Yao Guai is just ran over by her, so these things apparently appear to be somewhat of pushovers. If a small car can take a few of them out pretty easily.
Yeah.
But the Yao Guai still chase them as Mrs. Lee arrives to a bridge, and just then, as she crosses it, the Zodiac Warriors arrive, all of them showing off their various skills.
Hell yeah.
Now, the Zodiac Warriors are definitely the part of this movie that was worked on the most. It feels like the animation of them, the design of them, well, we'll get to the voice acting in a little while, and we'll talk more about each one of them when they become, let's say, quote-unquote characters to the movie. But for now, you could really feel that these guys were going to be the standout of the movie. That these characters, these Zodiac Warriors, are most likely the best part of the film. That the rest of it is not good, but a lot of them really are. One of the Zodiac Warriors, the goat, basically bleats and causes an explosion to clear the path. Unfortunately, the goat Zodiac Warrior is nowhere near as cool of a goat as Victor from Ed, Edd, and Eddy.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Victor's gone mad! I will say this. The writing for the Zodiacs we'll get to, because that's what holds it back for me. With one huge glaring problem.
They did a good job with it. I think they did a
Yeah,
good job with it. But we'll
absolutely.
talk
They did
more
a-
about the Zodiacs themselves when they come up in the plot. But for now, I have to admit that I also think they did a really good job with them. Sorry, Angron, for interrupting. Sorry.
Yeah, all good. But yeah, this is also where we see Mistral for a brief moment, and honestly, she definitely does her part as well
Yep.
as the others. It does a good job establishing the Zodiacs, and it definitely gets things interesting shortly before it kind of loses it. Ugh.
Yeah,
But we'll
yeah,
get to
it
that in
does.
a moment.
But like I say,
So,
the way we
Shark.
sorry, Shark, sorry, go ahead. Apologies.
As we mentioned that we are going to talk more in detail when the Zodiacs become their own character and then properly introduced. We're going to talk about them. But that's
Yeah,
the
especially-
minority, actually, because let's just say that for most of these warriors, this is pretty much the only scene we see them until the very ending.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
we see
we'll
some
get
more,
to that.
but we'll get to that. Yeah, but
Yep.
also, yeah, they absolutely steal the show here. Anyways,
Yep. So yeah. Anyway, what happens next is that I do like how we get to see all of them do their different fighting stances, and we get to see how they each tackle the situation. It's a good introduction to them as concepts, and it's really a moment that I feel the movie never quite lives up to. And again, we'll get to that as the movie goes along. But for now, we're going to talking about it. One last thing I do want to say about the Zodiac Warriors before we actually get to them later is that the color scheme of the horse just reminds me of Princess Luna.
nice.
I had that
Also, we
vibe
do get
too.
more. Yeah, we do get
That
more
too.
character. We do get more characterization of the Zodiacs going forward, but again, we'll get to that.
Yeah, but for now, they're really just like a plot device. And again, like I say, they do have more predominance, but they also have less. And again, that'll make sense. But what happens now is Mrs. Lee her car goes dead as Tiger runs towards her and leaves the fight. Then we get to see a mysterious woman, Miss Lou, step out of the smoke and cackles, waving her hand as lightning comes out of her fingers. Mrs. Lou is voiced by Michelle Yeoh, who is an Oscar winner, but I always associate her first and foremost with James Bond. I guess I'm that kind of guy, but anytime I see her anything, I just expect to see Pierce Bronson beside her, and they're going to shove a drill in Jonathan Pryce's stomach. This is what you give the people what they want, Elliot. That's the mass media. No. Sorry, a little bit of reference there, but
God.
yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, the design of the villain also makes me think of the ounce from Cubo and the two strings. Actually, they
Yeah.
are
Very much so. Very
Yeah.
much so.
Yeah, I will say this: she, in spite of her doing a decent job and her design being all right, bordering on good for the most part. Yeah, I definitely her acting, her lines, while scary in particular, they definitely fall flat going forward. It's like Michelle Yeoh definitely got bored during this. Like they got like I know Sharvoun mentioned this. He said that.
didn't.
Oh
But
well,
I mentioned this earlier, and I was going to point this out too. But you continue.
yeah, but yeah. Michelle Yeoh felt like a last minute addition here. Like they were like, we need a Asian actor for our villain, but we got this one. But oh no, she's not available anymore. But what about Michelle Yeoh?
She won an Oscar recently.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Sharvoun?
yeah.
Honestly,
But what happened
to me,
Sorry, go ahead.
to me, I agree wholeheartedly about Michelle Yeoh being wasted. And one thing that really frustrates me is that there's another. Or years earlier, not only did she do Everything Everywhere All at Once, but she also did a movie called Crazy Rich Asians, a rom-com where she played an overbearing mother to the protagonist's boyfriend. And in my opinion, there is one scene where she tells her off and tells her you'll never be enough, where she is infinitely more intimidating than any scene she is here. And that's because she does a great job with her acting there. And also, I have to disagree with everyone. I think her design's kind of lame. Like she's nothing really about it stands out to me. And honest, and like you said, Michelle Yeoh just feels like a tag on, which is a sin to me because she's an incredible talent. Like she is dedicated, she is beautiful, she is just one hell of a great actress.
Yep, that is definitely true.
Yeah, Yeah, but like as you said, in this movie, she's not really giving it her all, and you can kind of see it. But again, that's something that we will talk about a little bit later on. But what happens right now is Mrs. Lee makes a fighting stance as the rest of the Zodiac Warriors come to help her. It then cuts to Tom in the car, but then it suddenly cuts back outside. Then it pans up to the title card. After that, we cut to modern day San Francisco. Unfortunately, although they're in San Francisco, they had a huge missed opportunity there. We could have had a crossover. We could have had Jack Burton show up to save Tom, but we didn't. That would,
I was
you know,
expecting a
he
Sonic
escapes.
reference, but okay.
Yeah,
I was expecting I was expecting a Big Hero 6 reference. That would have been made this movie a lot better, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Very different wavelength like this.
Yeah. Well, any one of them would have been better, which tells you a lot about the movie. Like, he escapes Mrs. Lou, but now he has to face Lopon.
Nice.
Yeah, but anyway, what happens is after some landscape shots set to rap music, we cut to Tom being bullied in high school, and it's here
face
I
he
gotta
makes-
talk about. Yeah,
Sorry.
I was just gonna mention that. The human designs of this movie look really weird. It's off-putting in a way, like for example, DreamWorks or Pixar, and even stuff like Blue Sky. They never looked this awkward. There's something
Honest-
about Tom. He looks wrong. Like,
Yeah,
I don't
in
know if
this-
it's the
in
face,
this first-
I don't know if it's the mouth, but he just does not look like an appealing design. Basically, that's what I'm trying to get at.
Honest-
He,
his
Go ahead,
first
go ahead.
scene. Sorry, it's a joke. His first scene looks like he just smelled SpongeBob's Sunday breath.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, the designs here are. I will say this: there are a few exceptions where the human designs do not look nearly as awkward, especially one in
Dragoness.
particular. Yeah, Yeah, we're gonna get to that, but yeah, I will say this: some of the designs, while somewhat cool, I will say this: they can look a little odd or a little dull at times. Not times. I never got off put, but yeah, they definitely felt. But yeah, there are like 2, 3, or 4 designs that I saw in this movie that interested me, and nothing else. Math.
Matt, you're saying?
Yeah, so in keeping with the theme of you can tell it started production in 2009, the best way that I found to describe the way that this movie looks, not the action scenes themselves, they're actually pretty well done, but the overall look of the movie is that imagine a mid budget movie from 2009, and this is pretty much what that looks like.
You hit the nail on the head right there. That is exactly because for a movie to be released
Exactly.
in 224 that was made in like 2019, this looks so dated. This really looks like this would be like if Pixar released Toy Story in 2007. You know, it's something that you can definitely tell it's from an older time, and it's a shame because other aspects of the animation looks really good, but this just doesn't. Shark, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like if Pixar made a Toy Story movie where it's about how kids are obsessed with their phones. Whoops!
Oh, wait a minute.
I mean, they still are. That wouldn't be as dated, but yeah. But yeah, honestly, like I think the best example of something being dated would be like making a 90s film about dull, edgy action and whatnot, and it being put on hold years later and then being released in the 2010s where the edgy era kind of ended, which, yeah, that's definitely something.
Okay,
Yeah.
but now getting back to the actual movie itself, what happens is Tom is currently being bullied in a way that really is reminiscent of Peter Parker being bullied by Flash Thompson in the first Tobey Maguire, Sam Raimi Spider-Man, and what happens is the bully throws the medallion that Tom left behind his head, then mocks him and his crazy grandma. Tom gets increasingly angry as the bully throws him on the floor and basically pummels him. But then Tom's hands begin to glow mysteriously as he pushes up the bully towards the ceiling, which could mean only one thing. Tom is the new Iron Fist. That'd be worse than the last one.
Nice.
I will say this fight scene does give me the one funny joke I got where the bully's like,
The fight scenes in this movie are really well done. And again, we'll talk more about them when we get to them, but that is definitely the part of the movie where the animators really tried. You can really tell that. But what
Also,
happens?
Also,
the one funny joke, that was what I was trying to say. The one funny joke where the bully's like, say your grandma's a witch, or say my grandma's a witch, and he's like, your grandma's a witch?
yeah, but fuck. Yeah, it's also funny here because like he gets pushed up and he immediately gets wedgied, which yeah, definitely that scene, despite coming after a pretty epic opening, is one of the better ones. And we'll get to a few other better ones, but for now, that's definitely one of like 2 or 3, honestly.
Yep,
4 or
exactly.
5.
Yep, I definitely can see where you're coming from there. But what happens is the bully is then left there hanging, as Sharvoun mentioned, as Tom runs to the bathroom, staring at his hands in shock. Tom wanders out of school where Rov, a new classmate, is cheering him on and calls him Fight Club. So I guess this also can mean one thing, that Mrs. Lou is just Tom's version of Tyler. Would have definitely been an interesting twist on the movie, but regardless. Rov
Would
and
have
Tom...
explained their... Sorry, I'll wait a little bit.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
Another
Go
thing, another issue, I'll let Ludmilla elaborate on this later, but honestly, it would have been much better if it would have hurt Tyler, because that would explain their lack of chemistry. That's sort of another big problem. The chemistry is just the chemistry between these two is just so goddamn weak. Like, it's not the weakest in the film, we'll get to that in a moment, but honestly, Ludmilla, like, they barely have much time together, and, well, Ludmilla, my czar, take it away.
Yep.
Yep, definitely. But what happens is Rov and Tom introduce each other, with Rov being impressed at Tom's fighting skills. A car suddenly drives up to Rov with her foster mother in the front seat. As Rov talks to her, Tom looks on in interest. The car then drives away as Rov tells Tom that she'll walk home. And then the two of them skateboard as it's set to yet another song, which is a weird thing about this movie. It's a quasi-musical in that it has a lot of music in it, but none of them are sung by the characters. None of them are like musical numbers to do with the movie. It's just like we got to fit in random songs in this movie because that's what movies do. And it doesn't really work. It feels so out of place when they keep starting up, you know?
Yeah.
But what happens is Rov looks at the charm his grandmother makes, and basically she mentions how much her foster mom loves them. And it's here, I gotta talk about something else. The editing in this sequence is so weird because it has Rov and Tom talking to each other. It cuts to them skateboarding down the street, then it just cuts back to them talking again. And it does this like 2 or 3 times in a row. This feels so disjointed. It's like it got mixed up in like a blender or something, because it's them skateboarding and laughing and having a good time. The conversation,
Sounds
more
like a Family Guy
skateboarding.
cutaway gag.
It does, and it's so surreal in that it is so weird.
But on the one hand, I definitely think this could have worked if they refined it a little bit, which clearly they had enough time to do so and yet didn't because reasons. But on the other hand, I can kind of understand what you mean. It's not too bad. You're talking to an early 2000s person, so that sort of editing is sort of blind to me for the most part. But yeah, this particular moment here, it could have worked if it was flushed out a little better, and yet it wasn't.
My 2 cents on this is that this is what I mean by the characters have no chemistry. Like, this is supposed to be their bonding period, but this is literally the first time they interact, and we don't really get a feeling for them really making that connection. They just sort of start talking, and then boom, they got that connection.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, most friendships do. To be fair, most psychologists or social skills people would probably agree that this is probably a good way to like start a friendship. But yeah, keep in mind, this is supposed to be his love interest, and you could do worse, but you could also do much, much better, you know?
Yeah, definitely. But when it gets back to the actual conversation, what happens is Tom talks about how his grandmother says that the charms can ward off evil spirits, and Rov does not believe him. Tom and Rav talk about their parental situation, with both of them never knowing their true parents. Rav mentions that Tom's grandmother seems cool. Then, in a weird moment, she plays with the bubbles in boba tea, making her teeth look black. They then go to Tom's house, and this is a part of the movie that, again, feels like something from the earlier draft. They step over, I guess it's his dog, Gigi, as it lays nearly catatonic in the middle of the road. And here's the thing. This dog is never seen after this. I feel like this is from an original draft where it would be revealed Gigi is one of the Zodiac Warriors, but it's not. So you just have this random scene put in for no reason. It is so out there, you know?
Yeah, it's out there, yet it doesn't really distract from too much. It's just a moment where you're like, oh, okay. And you just keep moving on. It's not harmless, it's not harmful, but it's not exactly relevant to anything. It's just a joke.
True.
Yeah, it
Matt, you're
doesn't add anything to the story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely say. Matt, you were saying?
Kind of a working theory I've been going with for this movie is what happened is because it started production in 2009, they instead of a pause or whatever happened to stop it from being made and then just kept going and going. They effectively froze production entirely every time they ran out of money or production halted for whatever, and then didn't do anything with it, didn't touch it at all. And then when they got funding again or got the green light again, they picked it right back up. But they never looked at anything that needed to be revised, or they never gave a second glance at anything and just kept going with whatever they had at the moment, which is why so many things feel weird.
No wonder
Yeah,
it feels disjointed.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a hit the ground running sort of deal because, like, it's not as fast or as freaking disjointed as something like, or as packed as something like Biker Mice from Mars, but it definitely feels all over the place, which is definitely concerning, especially for a film like this, which was worked on for years. And that theory Matt said honestly kind of holds water here. Not gonna lie.
In truth, at least this is something I'll go into this a little more when we get introduced to a certain feline character, but this is being rushed is a very big reason why this film doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I can kind of see that, yeah. But what happens is Tom mentions that his house looks exactly like a temple and how they get free oranges. And we know who's giving them the free oranges. It's Mario dressed as Captain Citrus from the old neglected Mario characters webcomics. And that's your obscure reference for the day, kids. But Shark, you were saying?
Yeah, I thought you were gonna say it was gonna be Twilight Sparkle after turning a lot of frogs into oranges.
That was going to be my second joke, but I had to go with the obscure 2000s webcomic reference. So there's that. But anyway, Tom goes inside and mentions how hard it is to make friends with his weird house, as his grandmother mentions that the charms are special to her. Tom doesn't know what it means, as his grandmother tells him that he'll see what he is, basically. But then she notices Tom's black eye as he embarrassingly tries to cover it up. Should have just told her he got it from fighting Jack M. Crazyfish. I mean, that always works. Yep. But we then cut to his grandmother rubbing an egg on his eye, which is a sentence I never thought I would have to say in my life.
It's probably an Asian tradition or something.
Maybe. But basically, she tells him that fighting is not the answer, and that it's best to basically think rationally and use your heart rather than your fists, which basically he's telegraphing the message of the movie, which again we will get to later. But
yeah,
Tom mentioned,
pay attention to this. This 100% will come back later.
Tom mentions that the bully called her a witch, as the grandmother tells Tom to be more compassionate to the bully. Tom just laments that he wants to be normal, as we've seen in dozens of other animated movies like this. But basically, his grandmother tells him that they'll talk as soon as he puts out the charms. Tom goes outside and basically puts them up haphazardly, as a voice tells him he's doing it wrong. It turns out to be a mysterious man named Mr. Who has a striped parrot on his jacket. The man then, oddly enough, sniffs Tom's scalp for a reason that will be obvious in a bit. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I will say this. Hugh's design here is one of those characters that absolutely does it for me. He looks cool here. Though honestly, the thing that he reminds me of the most here is that the main character from the first few Yakuza games, where like he honestly looks like he's part of the Chinese mafia or the Yakuza at most, and that's crazy.
You mean Kiryu?
Yeah, Kiryu, that guy. Yeah.
Yeah, all I could think through that moment is stranger danger.
Yeah.
Yes,
absolutely.
that is perfect.
Yeah, stranger danger.
Yeah, but
No, it's Patrick.
yeah, but the man goes inside as the grandmother excitedly greets Mr. Who, and it turns out that Tom smells of magic, quote unquote, as grandmother mentions the talk, leading to a disgusted reaction from Tom. Oh, go ahead, Sharvoun.
Slow down. That's honestly the number one thing I've said to this movie. Slow down. That's in my opinion one of the biggest offenders of the movie. And it's like math stimulated, like because they were so disjointed, there was a bigger rush to get to the plot points faster without allowing moments to breathe or be built up properly or really get us a feeling for this. To really show you how bad it is, this portion happens 10 minutes into the movie. 10 minutes. Even Zootopia, which was was able to slow down and take its time much better.
Yeah, I will also say this. At least there are like, you want another example of how disjointed this you want another example of how disjointed the film can be? There are like 3 or 4 other moments where things are allowed to be slowed down, and yet that it is quickly moved on, and it freaking crazy.
Yeah, it definitely is. But what happens is Who mentions that Tom does not even know who he is, as Tom mentions how he uses magic to pin his bully into the ceiling. Mrs. Who tells him that he is a warrior of the Circle of 12, sworn to protect the guardian of the Phoenix. And in an example of how good this film's writing is, Tom replies with, "I'm Tom, House of Lee. I'm lactose intolerant and owner of a Steph Curry rookie card." Which, okay. That is the level of humor we're working at here, people.
Yep.
But basically what happens next is Who and Tom's grandmother talk, as Who mentions that everyone knows you're here, as the grandmother notices what's happening. The house begins to shake as Tom's grandmother levitates the shoes into his hands. Tom wonders how she does that as she casts a protective spell around them. Obviously, she's been studying from Twilight Sparkle there. Who is excited and ready to fight, but she instructs him to get Tom to safety. Tom's grandmother pushes them out of the way as Who realizes that Mrs. Lou is there. Mrs. Lou remarks that Tom's grandmother can make it easy or can make it harm, but the woman tells her to just come and take it. And it's at this point that one thing popped in my mind when I saw this. Oh, hey, I've seen this episode of Courage the Cowardly Dog. She wants Muriel's bones, right? And she's going to have the Asian guy with the car. You know, he's going to be her apprentice, right?
Watch where you're going, you fool.
Yeah, that guy, exactly.
Sorry,
that guy was the best. That's okay.
What
That
are
guy
you
was
going,
the
you
best.
fool?
That guy was the
Oh
best.
gosh, that also reminded me of that freaking one scene from Peabody and Sherman where oh gosh, where Albert Einstein's in the road like, "Hey, get out of the way! I'm walking in." Oh man.
Yeah, now all we need is imagine a version where instead of the grandma, it's Eustace who is the protector.
He'd beat her because you know why? Nothing can get him out of his chair. She'd like beat him up, punch him, send the yoke right, and he's like, "Nope, not getting out of my chair."
Yeah.
No, sir. Classic. But anyway, what happens is in the actual movie, Miss Lou basically laughs evilly and twirls her umbrella that she obviously borrowed from the penguin as the Yao Guai attack her. Tom's grandmother attempts to fend them off, but Tom cries out for her, causing one of them to attack her. Who leaps up into the air and begins to glow before transforming back into his natural tiger form. And as we said earlier, the fight choreography and the fight scenes in this movie are really well done, if nothing else.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing. Every fight scene, for the most part, is absolutely a stunning visual to look at. And the fact that it comes from a movie like this just kind of makes it feel bittersweet at times. Like, it's still amazing, and they are easily the best part of the movie, but come on, we could have done more, people. Could have done more.
Exactly. But what happens next is uh, basically he leaps onto the Yaguai and tackles it before remarking how much he misses doing that. Tom remarks about Who's pants being missing in a really unfunny joke. But then Who puts Tom on his back as he remarks about there being more Yaguai. We then cut back to Mrs. Liu and Tom's grandmother as the latter is busy fighting off the Yaguai. When Mrs. Liu threatens Tom, Tom's grandmother warps them to some kind of a spiritual plane as they battle each other. And the fight choreography is really, really good here, you know? Again, this feels like... It actually feels like they took a kung fu movie and they rotoscoped it. That's how good it is, you know?
Yeah, definitely feels that way.
Oh, yeah.
So it feels a little more stilted here in like actual animation compared to like something like rotoscoped.
Yeah, no, it's not rotoscope, but you can tell that they definitely used like live action models for this spot, or at least had like stunt choreographers do this and then basically animate it over it, which again, it looks really, really good. You can tell that these were the moments they put all the money in the movie, and it definitely shows. But anyway, what happens next is Hu and Tom are busy running from the Yaguai as they leap onto the roof. They nearly fall off as Tom attempts to kick a Yaguai in the face, only to accidentally kick Hu. The pair make it onto the roof as Tom trips and holds onto a drain pipe before falling off into a dumpster. And we then cut back to Mrs. Liu and Tom's grandmother, as Mrs. Liu mentions how Tom's grandmother is so old. She asks if she needs a hand, as Tom's grandmother says, have two, and she creates two giant wooden hands to smash into Miss Liu. So obviously, Master Hand and Crazy Hand showed up. Nice little thing there. But as Tom's grandmother basically pants in exhaustion, the house slowly turns back to normal. Who returns back to his human form as Tom leaps out of the dumpster to go back to his house. Oh, go ahead, Angron, you were saying?
This honestly feels like they... Okay, speaking of them just hitting the ground running whenever they felt like it, this moment right here feels like they completely ripped it off from freaking... what was it? Oh, Doctor Strange. Like, this absolutely feels like the mirror dimension, except more Asian.
I can definitely see that. I see where you're coming from, you know?
That's the vibe I got.
Yeah, I definitely can see where you're coming from. This definitely feels like, we saw Doctor Strange too, even though this was in production before Doctor Strange. So it's like, who's ripping off who here? Even though it's highly unlikely they'd rip off a Strange animated movie. But regardless, what happens is his grandmother sees Tom, but Mrs. Liu suddenly reappears, getting ready to take the stone off of her. But Tom's grandmother is too quick. She takes the stone off and throws it to Tom. She smiles at him, then turns to Mrs. Liu as all the charms quiver and shake. And then this is where we get a moment that actually kind of shocked me. The house explodes. The house explodes in like purple flames. I was not expecting that, you know. And what happens is the sky opens up as a giant moth-winged kind of creature comes down. And it's kind of go ahead, Sharvoun. My apologies.
Yeah, I didn't. I wasn't surprised. From the moment they had that nice talk, I literally told myself, okay, when's she gonna die? Called it.
Yeah.
I can kind of see that, but I guess for me, I expected it. I didn't expect it so early. I expected it to be like maybe the midway point of the movie. So for them to like kill off the grandmother so quick is really kind of surprising. But what happens is...
it's also crazy. Yeah, like, this is honestly one of the things where, like, reminds me of The Good Dinosaur, where, like, they do some pretty brutal stuff, like, in the movie, despite it being kind of a mid-movie. And this also kind of reminded me a bit of the Sonic movie, where Longclaw sacrifices herself to save Sonic, which, again, cookie-cutter movie, right off the bat.
Yep, exactly. But who says that it is the ghost cart and is there to take noble souls into the afterlife, which, apparently is from actual mythology, so points for accuracy there. The Yaguai basically sniff around the remains of the house, and we cut to Tom riding on Who's Back before they head into Chinatown. Unfortunately, Jack Nicholson is not here. What a waste, what a waste. But
Yeah.
the pair enter a building that disappears, and it turns out to be an antique shop where Who lives. And I just want to point something out. This is the second movie we're talking about with a magical disappearing antique shop after D-War.
Nice.
Yep. But anyway, go ahead. You were saying?
Oh, yeah. Dialing back to the ghost card thing, I honestly was surprised nobody was going to make a Ghost Mothra joke.
I almost was, but then I
Yeah.
wanted to make sure like it wouldn't be offensive or what. So it's all good. But what happens is he tells Tom that all the stories his grandmother told him were true and that she was a warrior. The stone turns out to be the phoenix and that dark forces want it. Tom just sobs that he wants to go home and angrily says that Who could have saved his grandmother. And Tom tries to leave, but the spell on the door just repeatedly warps him back to Wu. And Wu says that Tom is now the Tiger's apprentice, which I will say this movie so far is marginally better than The Sorcerer's Apprentice starring Nicolas Cage. So there's that.
Yeah.
I was gonna mention the loop thing. I was like, oh, he hasn't collected the 70 star needed to face Bowser.
Classic. You were saying, Sharvoun?
Sharvoun?
Again, breathe. Take your time, movie. We can figure this out slower. Sorry,
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah, the pacing, we know.
Mm-hmm.
Math?
Because the film overall, other than the action scenes, is actually rather kind of boring. One thing, this just shows that one thing that kept running through my head is because the tiger's name is Who, and this just keeps happening when Lud mentions his name every time. All I can think is, okay, who's on first?
What's on second?
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, this is a classic. But
Also,
what happened?
yeah.
Go ahead, Ty.
Yeah, it's also funny because hearing that just makes me think, I'm sorry, who? Yeah, it's my name, who? Also, how fast this film goes by, that right there, they went through the entire 5 stages of grief in only a couple minutes. That is how little this film has room to breathe.
Yeah, exactly. This is a very, very rushed movie. But Tom goes upstairs and lies in the bed, only to fall directly into it. Sadly, it is not Freddy Krueger ready to turn him into a blood geyser, because that would have been actually interesting. It turns out that Tom is in a spirit realm, and it's here where the movie really kind of lost me, because the animation takes on a Spider-Verse type of style with the choppy frame rate and that, but it just looks so bad here. It really doesn't work. And they try to do this like faux 2D shading style. And again, it really does not work. I am sorry. I get what they were trying to do, but they just didn't have it in them. I'm sorry, you were saying, Sharvoun?
I have to disagree with you. I think this moment is one of the better looking. It's probably the best looking part of the film. I'm a big fan of the sketchy look. So. And it really is a clever way to show that he is dreaming, which is hard to get across in animation.
That's fair. Shark?
Yeah, the thing is that Spider-Verse kinda not only does make the frame rate slower, but there's a lot of stylization, like colors. There's a lot of thought of how things are gonna look. Here they did a choppy frame thing, but I think they just grabbed a random filter from the internet and shoved it in the actual movie.
Kind of.
Again, that's what it felt like, Yeah. But
Math?
Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I can understand why you didn't like it. Because I didn't like the animation style that much, I actually did like this because it had sort of a watercolor looking vibe to it. I thought that it was supposed to be like a Chinese watercolor scene.
I
can see that.
Yeah, I get that too. But the downside is other films that have done this sort of style have done it better and in a way that makes it more unique and colorful. And while the soft tones here definitely work, I don't know. It just felt kind of mid. It's mystical, but not in a way that keeps me invested, to say the least. It was definitely weird, but it's whatever.
Yeah, I can kind of see that. But what happens is he sees a phoenix fly before him before it turns green and attack him. He then is floating before, forgive me about the pronunciation of this because it's not my specialty, Nu Kwa, the Empress, who is also a giantess. Tom nervously introduces himself as she tells him that he walks two worlds, the mortal one and the world of magic, before touching his forehead. Tom wakes up and it's the middle of the night. He then hears noises downstairs, and in a pretty, actually good, impactful scene, Tom goes downstairs to see Who mourning the death of Tom's grandmother. And Tom sits next to him as they quietly reflect on this in a scene that really is pretty impactful. I was like, okay, we're getting somewhere. Unfortunately, the film never goes to any of these heights here, but you could tell they were trying something, basically.
Yeah. Again, this honestly kind of feels like something that would have made Doctor Strange a little better, and yet Doctor Strange did stuff like this better. Like, come on. Also, Sharvoun.
It doesn't help that the scene is incredible. The actors don't really sound like they're into it, and the scene that follows it is such a big tonal change.
Yeah, tonal whiplash.
Yep, it is, but we'll get to that right now. What happens is basically the next day, Tom is sleeping in before Who roars at him, waking him up. The two of them get ready to train as Tom lets out a joke about not waxing cars for Who. Go ahead, Shark.
Yeah, the way when he wakes him up by roaring, I like to think it's like, oh, he learned from Gary.
Yeah,
Nice.
he's gonna teach him how to tie shoes now.
Yep.
Yep, that would if only the loop. Yep, he's gonna do the ancient technique of the loop-de-loop. But what really happens is he goes down to the training area, and they have a cute little reference about him not waxing Mr. Who's car rather, and a cute little Karate Kid joke. Although that really just makes me want to watch Karate Kid again. So was it really that successful? But
Who knows?
what happens is Who wants Tom to try and fight him. So I guess this really is like Fight Club because he wants him to hit him as hard as he can. And of course, Tom not having any sort of fighting skills, Who easily dodges all of his attacks. He then shows Tom that he managed to take the Phoenix from him. And, go ahead, sorry.
They're breaking the first rule of Fight Club. Don't talk about Fight Club.
Yep, and the second rule. They're breaking the first and the second rule. So they're really failing there. But
yeah.
What happens is a rat suddenly appears in the training dojo as Who attempts to lunge at it, angrily saying for the rat not to touch his things. The rat then lands on Tom's shoulder and says hi. Then Tom manages to push the rat into the wall. The rat transforms into a human form as Who reveals that the rat is one of the Zodiac Warriors named Sydney. Sydney's human design is kind of like a nerdy looking man. Honestly, when I saw him, the first thing I thought of, I kid you not, was Jerry Lewis and the Nutty Professor. Like, instead of turning into Buddy Love, he turned into a rat, But, sorry, go ahead.
Honestly, he started off a little annoying, but he grew on me.
Yeah.
I kind of had the opposite reaction. He got worse as he went along, Sydney the rat man. And we'll talk about why in a little bit. Go ahead, Matt.
First, his human design, if anybody looked like they would transform into a rat, it's this guy. I don't know what it is. They made him look very rat-like in his design.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is, they do this with a couple of characters where sometimes they'll look like they're Zodiac, and then with Mr. Who, no, he just looks like a regular dude in the style, so it's weird. But also, I'm with Lud on this one. I did not like this guy at all. They were trying for a Templeton-like character. Again, really showing my age, Charlotte's Web, but without any charisma or charm.
Yeah. At least he's better than Wormtail. I'll give it that much.
Yeah.
I mean, I also grew up watching stuff like Black Cauldron and Thundercats. It did not have the same impact as like Snarf or
Gurgi. He's not
Gurgi.
that bad. Yeah, he's not that bad at least, thankfully. But
Exactly.
no, what happened? Yeah. But what happens with him is Sydney tells him that he saw Lou last night, And it turns out that he was eating in the trash as before he saw Lou slowly limp her way towards a mansion. We get one pretty decent joke in this segment with Sydney thinking she's there for the food, but what happens is Lou just leaps into a fountain as it heals her. It turns out that Tom knows exactly where the mansion is and gets ready to go there before being stopped by Who, as Who basically tells Tom that he's not ready to fight them. He mentions that Lou can access the darkest magic before Sydney says to reunite the rest of the Zodiac Warriors. Who says he works alone, but eventually he relents as he leaves. We get a pretty decent joke with Sydney, with him turning from a rat into a human to hug him is pretty good. He then turns to Tom and says he has a gift for him. Then he pulls out an entire pizza, which apparently was meant for his uncle, Master Splinter, and set. Yep, had to make that reference. Sorry, folks. You have a rat. He's a ninja. What else were we gonna do?
Yeah, it's also very odd seeing as how he's doing it in public. Either he's got some very good stealth magic on his side, or that motherfucker rolled a nat 20 and made a DM very salty.
Exactly. But he then gives Tom a pouch that has a gigantic sword in it. The trio then make their way into Chinatown as Sydney is distracted by all the different types of food, edible or otherwise. And this is like what Math said. I really agree with you there, Math, that this gets old so fast. This is like the one joke they have with this, and they hammer it in, and it just gets tiresome. Like like you said, Templeton had more character than this guy, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, Sharvoun, you were saying?
One thing that really bothers me about the movie is the spinning camera, or rather the trying to make a single shot camera kind of thing. I will say they didn't have the talent to pull it off. I'm sure they worked hard on it, but they just didn't have the talent.
Yeah. Also, I will say this. Thankfully, the whole trash thing falls flat, but it does very much stop after a while, and which I will give credit to the film for that. They get all the annoying stuff out of the way very quickly. Props to you, film.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely can see that. But what happens is the three go down an alleyway towards a restaurant before three Yao Guai appear. Who prepares to fight them, saying you mess with the tiger and you get the claws in a weird moment. Oh, Shark, you were saying?
And now, the moment you're all been waiting for.
Oh,
We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. But what happens is Tom argues with him on that in a really pointless conversation. But before Who can attack, a dragoness suddenly swoops in to save them. And Tom, like the audience, stares in complete awe at her. Now, this dragoness is interesting because her design is very similar to that of Sisu from Raya and the Last Dragon, especially with the color scheme, the blue and the white, and it's very similar in a way. And what happens is, but yet, there's something about her design that despite being similar, it also has its own flair, and I like that. I like that they gave her more cat-like eyes. I like the elements like the sharp teeth in that, and the fact that she's not quite as furry as Sisu, shall we say. She's more of a scale dragon is nice. And yeah, we'll talk more about her personality in a minute. But anyway, you were saying?
Yeah, she 100% stole the show the moment she came on screen. Like, yeah, I was ready to label. Like, I did not know what to expect with Mistral going in, but this right here 100% dispelled all that, and I very much was in it for the ride. Spoilers, she's getting a high score from me.
Yeah, but we'll see how the rest of it gets in the Dragoness Scale. But what happens is Who turns his hand into a claw, preparing to fight, but the Dragoness merely just smirks at him and breathes fire at the Yao Guai. Who being jealous of the Dragoness is a really nice touch there, as you see in a really awesome moment, her soar through the air and curl her body around a Yao Guai before it basically explodes in a million pieces. But then, unfortunately, we get something that is rather sad. She flies back to the ground and transforms into a human. which
Quack,
also looks eerily similar to Sisu, with long white hair with blue tips and a blue jacket, kind of like what Sisu had. Who revealed?
What do you think came first?
That's a tough question because work on this movie started 2019, but 2019 also was when Raya started production, I believe. So it's it's one of those things that might just be a coincidence. I don't think it was like a Finding Nemo, Shark Tale, Bugs Life, Ants scenario going on here. I think it was just coincidence. Although with the color scheme, you don't know. But anyway, getting off that, who reveals that the Dragoness's name is Mistral? Mistral the Dragoness is voiced by Sandra Oh, who, one thing, I looked at her credits and most of it didn't say that. One thing that did, she voiced Ming from Turning Red. So that means this is the second time she has played a kaiju.
Yeah.
Wait, you were saying?
Yeah, Sharvoun.
First, yeah. Her dragon design is pretty unique. While it doesn't really win me over completely, it is unique, and I do like the cat eyes. But her human design, nice.
Yeah.
Also, Sandra Oh is one of the few actors who's actually consistently great in this.
Yes. That is what makes Mistral so amazing in this. Not only is her voice actress putting in the work for this film, but this is one of the few instances where both designs are actually amazing. Like, there's Charmcaster and then there's Mistral. Like, granted, she's not as great, admittedly, as Charmcaster, but she's definitely up there. I like her human design very much, and I very much love her dragon design. Both grade A designs. Shark?
Yeah, something I really like that you don't really see much dragonesses is the scales and the lighting on them, because she's blue, but you can see that when the light hits her, she kind of becomes purplish, quite reflective, but not too much reflective. And yeah, they did a good job on the skin scale texture department.
Yeah,
Oh,
the term you're looking for. Yeah, the term you're looking for there is freaking opalescent, which
Yeah, that
works.
That works, yeah.
Anyways.
So anyway, Matt, you were saying? Oh, it's good. What happens is Mistral mentions that she will protect and guide Tom as his guardian, which, okay, way missed opportunity. This could have been the Dragoness's guardian, apprentice rather, and it's not. So that's a 0 out of 10 for the movie for that. But Who and Mistral playfully insult each other in a pretty fun dynamic as they head to Cynthia's a restaurant. The owner, Cynthia, an elderly woman, she refuses to let them in, claiming that they're closed. Sydney tries to bribe her with ginger, but in a funny moment, Cynthia refuses to let him in as he stole from her. And then in a moment that actually got a good smirk out of me, Mistral just bribes her with $100 and she lets them all in. Sharvoun, you were saying?
Cynthia's my personal. Aside from Minstrel, Cynthia's the best thing in this movie. She is just so funny and is actually voiced by none other than Lucy Liu, who also voices the lady in The Dream earlier.
Dynamic.
Mistral using money to bribe her way in is pretty much an early showcase that she is going to be different from your typical dragoness.
Yeah, she is absolutely a modern dragoness.
Yeah, that's one thing that, again, I'm going to mention that in a second. Like I said, she really has such good lines here. So just when she tells Tom that who doesn't understand humans, feelings, modern world, or really much of anything, as well as both her and who claiming to be Tom's guardian. And Mistral really is the heart of the group, which, like a Shark said, is fantastic. Usually you'd think that she'd be the cynical loner type, or the, basically fiery temper type. But no, she's really just like the heart of the group, and she is a fantastic character from this. I dare say she is the best character in the movie.
I will stand by that, hands down. Shark?
She's basically the Michelangelo of this team.
Yeah, when you get down to it, she really is.
Oh, she's not just a Michelangelo. She feels like the frickin' Leonardo at times. She's playful, but she's 100% wise. She is a person who knows her shit and is not afraid to admit as much. She has her fun side, but she absolutely is a lot wiser and a lot more of a leader figure than someone like Sisu.
Yep. But meanwhile, Cynthia pulls out a chart and presses on it, which causes the freezer door to open after a few tries. Unfortunately, we do not get to see if Squidward is frozen in there and will be frozen there for the rest of the 2,000 years.
Oh.
In a really nice touch that I did like, the animals turn from their human disguises back to their normal forms as they go in. And it's here we get a weird reveal. Cynthia is a frog woman, but they don't do anything with it. She doesn't hop around. She doesn't have a long tongue. She really does nothing to do with this movie, with that element of the movie. It's a shame. It felt like something that they just shoved into it and without thinking it. It felt like, again, something from an earlier draft. But meanwhile, Tom arrives at the Temple of the 12. Sydney does an impression of an announcer as he introduces all of the members one by one. In a cute touch, Who being annoyed by it, but Mistral really likes it, is a sweet touch. Matt, you were saying?
One of those weird pacing things in this movie because everything else feels so rushed in this so far. This scene goes on for 3 whole minutes where they do, and introducing this character and this character, this is their attack, and all that kind of stuff.
It was all right.
Yeah. Okay, Sharvoun, you were saying?
Yeah, this felt more like an exposition dump.
Yeah.
And like I said, the joke got old, and this leads to a big problem with the Zodiacs for me, which I'll elaborate on later.
Yep. But for now, we'll talk about the basically the Zodiacs as they're introduced. The first one introduced is Rooster, who was voiced by none other than Joe Coy, who's probably best known for earlier this year when he absolutely bombed at hosting the Golden Globe Awards. So I guess we're going to hear him say, "Hey, it's my first time playing a chicken. I only got the job 10 days ago. It's my writing staff."
Oh, joy.
Had to do that. Sorry. But next up is Dog, who just slobbers all over them. And in a weird thing, it's not even a Chinese breed of dog.
Yeah.
It's like a Mastiff. That's kind of weird when you think about it. But next up is Ox, who basically is just Iron Will from Friendship is Magic. Go ahead, Sharvoun.
I detract that actually, but yeah, that's actually Iron Will here promoting this fight. Who you looking at?
Well, you own our will.
Yeah, if only Fluttershy was here. But what happens next? The next up is a monkey who can shrink herself down in size, and she kind of reminds me a little bit of the one from Kubo and the Two Strings, but that could be again a coincidence. Go ahead.
If Jackie Chan doesn't voice that monkey, I'm out of here.
Yeah, Monkey's design is interesting because you can see some inspiration of it with Sun Wukong, actually, another legendary character in
Journey
Chinese mythology.
Journey to the West.
Journey
Yeah.
to the West.
Yep.
Also, it's interesting that you mentioned that because her ability of shrinking and growing is reminiscent of not only Wukong's shapeshifting abilities, but his main iconic staff, which can elongate, grow, and shrink.
Oh, that stuff, yeah.
Yeah. The
I can definitely see
Yuruyan,
that.
whatever. Anyways.
Anyway, yeah. What happens next is Peg, who to me eerily sounded like Tara Strong, the voice actress for her. I had to look it up, and it's not, but this sounded so much like a Tara Strong, a hyperactive, type of voice. I really thought it was her. I was fooled into thinking, like when I saw the credits, oh, maybe it's a pseudonym, but nope, it wasn't her. Next up is Mistral, and her loving her appearance is fantastic. And again, such a cute little character touch. Rabbit is next, and her design is cute. It's probably she is my favorite of the Zodiac Warriors that is not Mistral, to be honest, just because she has a fun character. She's followed by Snake, who barely gets any screen time in this movie. Followed by a Horse, who is the fastest of them all. And again, previously, it's kind of like a combination of Rainbow Dash and Princess Luna in a way.
Yeah,
And
it's
then-
also.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Yeah.
Continue. You first.
Yeah, it's freaking hilarious. Like Rabbit, Pig, and Viper are one of my some of my favorites, if not Mistral, Monkey, and if not Mistral, Monkey. But yeah, those 5 are some of my favorites of the bunch.
Yep. But unfortunately, after this, we get to everybody's least favorite, Goat. Who,
Oh, God.
number one, Goat does not talk. And number two, Goat is a reference to that oh so hilarious screaming goat meme. The one that ruined Ralph Breaks the Internet and Thor Love and Thunder. That one. Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yes.
Hollywood
My
saw that video
favorite.
and thought it was the funniest thing ever.
That joke was funny for like maybe a week. It'd be like if they were still making all your base jokes these days, you know? It's like the meme's dead. Move on. Matt, you were saying?
Have I mentioned this movie started production in 2009 yet?
Yeah. That is the biggest sign because in 2009 the audience would have been like, "Oh, classic meme." But now it's like, ugh. But
Yeah.
the final one of the 12 Warriors is who just rolls his eyes at the intro, which is him apparently licking himself and turns it off. He summons the other Guardians, but only Rooster, Rabbit, Goat, and Monkey show up. Sydney notes that it's usually the whole 12, but they're not there. Rooster is stunned that Tom is the new Guardian, claiming that he is too young and that Who previously said he could protect the Guardian all by himself. Goat bleats as yet another explosion goes off. And in what is also a good joke and a moment that is like, thank you, Rabbit wraps an ear around Goat's mouth and berates him? Her? I don't know what Goat's gender is.
It was a her last I checked.
Okay.
I could be wrong.
Sharvoun, you were saying?
Sharvoun?
Yeah, this honestly, the comedy turns on with the go when you really ask, what does he look? What is he like as a human?
Yeah.
Brainless, I assume.
Oh, yeah. It's all. Yeah.
No thoughts, head empty.
Yeah, there are like this film. That moment with the goat pretty much exemplifies a point that memes can be used in a clever way, but more times than not, they're not. And this film is an example of both the bad side of that sort of joke and the good side of that sort of joke, where like they do it, they get it out of the way and do it several times a few later, but they also have the know-how to be like, hey, shut up, we're not doing that right now. You know?
Yeah, exactly. I definitely can see that. But what happens next is Tom asks if they can go after Lou as he wants revenge, but Who tells him that they do not work like that. He says that Tom has to stay in the temple. Rooster and Who argue before Monkey shrinks them down. In a kind of a cute gag, they still fight with really high-pitched, squeaky voices as Mr. remarks how, despite thousands of years, they still fight with each other. Sydney then notices that Tom is missing as Rabbit uses her super hearing to hear him running away. We then cut to Tom standing outside the abandoned mansion, and basically what happens, he jumps over the fence and cuts into the wood with his sword, startling a squirrel. He asks if the squirrel talks before it runs away. He then approaches the door, and it opens up to reveal Lurch, who says, "You rang." Unfortunately, no, that does not happen. If it did, this movie would be a 10 out of 10.
Nice.
But it doesn't.
Or at least a Chinese equivalent of Lurch, like a Jiangxi vampire zombie.
Yeah. But what happens
I would have considered Odd Job.
Nice.
He then approaches the door before falling into it, and it turns out that the mansion is completely fully furnished on the inside. The Zodiac Warriors bursts in as Sydney is impressed at how it looks, but Monkey tells them that it's all an illusion. So apparently we are now in the Frenchman's mansion from the Matrix sequels. So we'll have to see if if he shows up. But Who wants to pull a Fred Jones and split up, but Mistral tells them that they all have to work together. Go ahead, Shark.
Alternatively, they are in Dio's mansion and a certain someone is using their stand.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, tenor sax, definitely. Also, freaking, in horror and D&D, it is very imperative that you never split the party, Who.
Yep.
Just
but then pounding noise here basically plays as Rabbit asks if they all can hear it. Then we get to hear rock music play as they're chased with a goat disappearing, thankfully. The music here is also unfitting as it's kind of like a rock song, and there is a reason for it in the movie, but it doesn't mean that they had to put it here. Because what happens is a flying umbrella floats towards them with the other members of the Zodiac on its windshield. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
and that's sort of the big problem with the Zodiacs. They're barely in the movie. And not in a good way or clever way that builds suspense. Like, imagine a scene earlier, like before the day begins, like showing one of the Zodiacs on patrol or something, and then something attacks it from behind. Like,
Yeah, there's no build up.
Shark, go ahead.
Yeah, this is the scene where the music is certainly unfitting the most. I mean, the heroes are being captured, and the music is like, "Hey, yeah, rock and roll."
Exactly. It is so out of place there.
I will say this: it does have a purpose, and while yeah, it can be a little off at times. I didn't really feel that it was off here. I will say, like it's something that happens in a little bit, but also it's combat music a little bit because like they're fighting and it's rock and roll combat music more or less. It's not perfect,
Yeah.
but eh.
Yep. But what happens is the other members of the Zodiac are on the umbrella. Rabbit kicks it out of the air as Rooster tells Monkey to find the others. Rabbit and Rooster fight it before being sucked in, and the music turns out to be Rav, who is playing music. It turns out that she lives there, and her foster mom turns out to be none other than Lou. Lou reveals her true self as the mansion falls apart, and Rav is completely horrified as he tries to force Rav to get the necklace. And here's something that really bothers me about this movie. This could have been a really interesting dynamic, but they do nothing with it. Like the woman who basically has been her mother for presumably years, is revealed to be this evil super villainess, and yet they don't do anything with it. When Rav says that Tom is not wearing the necklace with the phoenix in it, she throws her own daughter against the wall. Oh, go ahead, Sharvoun.
first of all, it's almost like this movie was tossed around for years. Oh, wait, it was. And second, and most of all, am I the only one who thinks that woman's human design looks a lot like the mother, like Mrs. Sandra Oh from Turning Red?
Kinda.
A little bit.
Yeah, I
Not
definitely kind
really.
of see that. But anyway, what happens is Lou threatens Tom and asks where it is. He says a variety of different answers, but Lou still demands to know where it is. The remaining 4 warriors bust in and try to fight her off, but Lou merely laughs and teleports away, flipping the house upside down. Who noticing that Tom has his sword is an interesting moment, but as the group fall repeatedly, they land on the ceiling as it fills with water. Sydney dodges the floating sword as it smashes a hole in the wall. They swim out to an air pocket as Sydney tells the group about it. Monkey then shrinks them all down to a tiny size so they could all fit, with Mistral basically carrying them all out. Who stares at the sword as they pass it before they go into a drain pipe, but all of a sudden the spell just randomly wears off as Sydney grows back to normal first before he gets stuck in the entrance. Go ahead, Shark.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because this is the only time in the whole movie where Monkey says, "Ooh, my powers are limited" or something like that.
Yeah, that's again something that feels like it was from a first draft.
Yeah, it also kind of, though it's honestly kind of a little funny. Like it builds on the urgency, though the urgency isn't nearly as strong as one would want.
Yeah. But what happens next is the others make it out and all fall before returning to their normal sizes. And Rolf thanks Tom for saving her, and she takes all this disturbingly well. Like the fact that, your mother is an evil 1,000-year-old sorceress, and you were just saved by a tiger, a rat, a monkey, and a dragon. That does not faze you at all.
Really
It's
not.
like, oh yeah, thanks for saving. That was cool, but it's like, come on. But the group watched the Yao Guai fly through the air as Hu asked Tom where the necklace is. It turns out to be in a bowl of fortune cookie at Cynthia's, as Hu is unimpressed by this. Sydney makes a lame pun as Cynthia lets out a laugh at this. And we then get Tom mentioning how the placemats at the restaurant are the story of the Zodiac, but we then get a kind of cute moment with Mistral being annoyed at her form looking like a sausage and how it has facial hair.
Yeah.
And again, a kind of a cute moment. They then
Best
talk
character.
about how they miss their friends. And Tom wants to learn how to be a guardian as Hu and Mistral agree. And then we get a training montage that, spoiler alert, turns out to be completely useless.
Not
Yep.
entirely, but we'll get to that.
It kind of does. But what happens, they teleport Tom to a floating island and says he has to concentrate to see the Phoenix. The Phoenix can be... Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, they take him to a certain world where floating islands, and like a cool thing is, oh, the producer saw Kung Fu Panda.
Exactly. I was just going to say that. This so feels like a Kung Fu Panda knockoff.
I said that already. That's absolutely what I said earlier. It is 100% trying to be Kung Fu
true.
Panda. All of
Yeah.
them.
Mhm.
Yeah. But what happens is Tom has to concentrate in order to see the Phoenix, and they all talk about how it could be used for good or for evil, and if Lou gets it, she will unleash darkness along the entire world on Lunar New Year. Cynthia demands all of them to eat in a funny gag, and it's here we get a moment that is kind of weird because most of this is just them, like, eating food, having a fun time, letting out a laugh. Sydney trying to get Tom to pass him the soy sauce with chi energy, and Tom splashing on his face and all laughing. It's like, you lost your friends. 8 of you are, for all intents and purposes, dead. And they're all treating this like, oh, it's happy, wacky, fun time. It really is so weird.
I mean, on the one hand, I can understand that. They're all surprisingly chill in spite of their friends being captured. But on the other hand, it's probably harder than you think to kill a Zodiac spirit. Also, not to mention, they plan on getting them back, so that's definitely a spirit lifter.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, honestly, this is a proof of how this is why once again, slow down movie. Take your time.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, true. But what happens basically after the training montage, who loses go ahead, Shark, you were saying?
Yeah, actually, there's a funny joke here, or at least a joke that made me chuckle. That during the montage, they sometimes cut to the restaurant, and the owner gives them fortune cookies, and Tom opens it and he says, "Can you see the Phoenix now?"
Yeah.
That was a good joke. I can't really over that, but that's a cute joke. That is a cute one. But what happens is basically who loses faith in Tom that he can still not see the Phoenix after all his training. And Tom basically laments to Mistral that who hates him, but Mistral tells him that who saved him. We then cut back to the opening as it turns out that who actually died, but his grandmother saved him and gave him a piece of her soul to revive. However, this good feeling does not last long as who says that Tom does not know who he is, and he never will. And then Tom runs away back to his house as a Yao Guai basically watches him. And one thing we forgot to mention, both this and the training sequence are set to 2 different songs. I did not mention them because I could not remember these songs if you had a gun to my head. These are so forgettable.
Honestly, the song during the part where he's in the house, I swear I got more emotional over "I'm Sad, I'm Very Sad" from Scott Pilgrim versus the World. So sad.
I can see that. Yep.
Not to mention, this also addresses another flaw that I have with this movie. Hugh and Tom are not a believable dynamic. Hugh and Mistral, yes. Cynthia and there's just so much wrong here. Like, Hugh is supposed to be a father figure, or at least a parent figure to Tom, and yet for the most part, he acts so aloof, and it takes Mistral calling him out to ultimately get things back on track in a good way, and yet it doesn't entirely work. It's not completely all for loss, but still.
To me,
Yeah,
I feel like he was meant to be sort of the jilted man who has to learn to soften up, and they form a friendship. But like you said, their connection's not believable, and thus the feeling you're supposed to be feeling suffers for it.
Yep. Shark, you were saying?
Now, the following scene in the house, this is probably the most rushed moment in the entire movie.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
we'll
Lordy.
talk about why now. Because Tom basically picks up a small tiger statue and cradles it, wondering why his grandmother never told him who he is. And then all of a sudden, his grandmother shows up alive. as he embraced her. She asks about the necklace as Tom gets ready to give it to her. But then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Rob just shows up and tells him it's not her as she turns into Lou. So apparently, she learned this from Dark Helmet. Fooled you! Oh man,
Would I
that's
lie?
the oldest trick in the book! Ha ha ha!
Yeah,
I
Man, I'd much rather
lie?
be watching Spaceballs than this. I really would.
this is a
Mhm.
moment that was so painfully obvious, and it sucked.
Yeah,
Math.
yeah. Matt, you were saying?
All I
Hey, Matt?
could think as I watched that scene, because I knew exactly what was going to happen. It is so cliched. It's actually kind of silly. Was the syndrome meme? You dense motherfucker.
Yes, yes, that is the perfect summary of that whole sequence. But
Honest,
she threw it.
And
it
Sharvoun?
also this scene also points out another flaw. Tom is a useless protagonist.
He
If anything, his actions only make things worse until the very last minute.
Uh-huh.
Think about it.
Yeah.
His first action, he attracts Wu. His second action, gets the Guardians kidnapped. Third action, Ludmilla.
Right. But what happens is Lou basically threatens Tom to find out where it is as he and Rob try to fight her off and run. However, she ends up stealing the necklace from him, cackles, and vanish. We then come back to Mistral and Who, both in their animal forms in a really nice touch. Who wonders why Tom keeps running from him as Mistral says that he pushes Tom away like how he pushes everything away. Mistral mentions Who basically realizes what a jerk he's been acting, and he asks Mistral why she stays with him. And we get a pretty cute joke of, I'm a cat person, and kind of a cute little joke there.
Yeah, two things on that. A, again, best character, best leader, hands down, best noodle. And second, I absolutely ship these two, hands down.
Okay. Matt, you were saying?
I'm just wanting to back it up just a little bit for when Lou was there, because Rav was being held hostage as well. One thing that was really weird to me is that Rav said to Lou, "Oh, you were a terrible mother. I hated you." And when we first see Rav, she said, "Oh, I hit the foster jackpot. This is the best mom I've ever had." It's like, you can tell that this movie is either on its first or second draft, and they did nothing to try and fix it the entire time.
She probably was lying the first time. Who knows?
Yeah, I can kind of see that. Sharvoun, you were saying?
Tone and consistency. What's that? Yeah,
Yeah,
honestly, the tone
yeah.
shift between the two scenes is so obvious, and honestly, it would have been so much better if before the girlfriend shows up, Tom's like, "Wait, this isn't right."
But,
Why
yeah.
would, like, at least give him something?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But anyway, getting back to it, Tom and Rob enters, telling them that he has lost the Phoenix, much to their shock. We then cut to Tom sitting on a rooftop, basically with Who. He laments why his grandmother didn't tell him about this sooner, and he shows Who his tiger toy. It turns out that Who gave it to him when he was a baby, and they decided to hide him until he took down the charms. Who mentions that he was not a good guardian. Gee, you think? As Tom vows to find Lou. We then cut to the Lunar Day Parade as Who tells him that Lou is waiting for sundown when the energy is at its peak. Tom has trouble focusing on where the Phoenix is because of all of the lights and noise until he tracks down Lou in her human disguise. But then she notices him and transforms before unleashing the Yalguai on the parade. Luckily for her, this was not Gotham's 200th anniversary parade, and because then the Joker would have been pissed. She stole my balloons! She stole my balloons! Why didn't anybody tell me she had one of those things?
Bob,
Yeah.
you're gone.
Also, a movie's climax that takes place during a Chinese parade, and it involves people transforming into zodiac animals. Where have I seen this before?
Hi, Bell
Yeah.
Bottoms.
If only
Yeah.
she was here. If only she
Yeah.
was here.
If only. That would have made this film way better. Oh my gosh.
Then we get, unironically, the best shot of the movie for me, which is Mistral diving off the building and transforming into her Dragoness form before attacking them. It really looks so amazing. this feels like a shot that was like rendered way later into production because this has so much more effort than the rest of the movie combined. It is nuts.
Have
You
we
were saying,
mentioned yet
Sharvoun?
everything around her is amazing?
Yes,
Yes,
Mistral is best
we have
character in this movie.
many
I will
times,
not be
many
dissuaded.
times. But we get to see all of basically the remaining Zodiac Warriors fight them. Sydney bites into one only to gag at the taste. Monkey swings around and takes out several of them. Basically, Lou is noticing them fighting off the Yaogwai and uses her umbrella to get to the top of the building. We even cut to Cynthia beating up the Yaogwai with a rolling pin rather than her frog powers, which she was shown to have. Sorry, I got a little annoyed there. But what happens is Tom then randomly steals a skateboard from a kid and rides it while Who drags him. We then get an unnecessary slow-mo shot of him smacking it into a Yaogwai's face. Tom then jumps onto Who's back as they climb the building, with Mistral stopping the approaching Yaogwai with her fire. And then at the top of the building, we get some various, again, pretty decent fight choreography of Who and Lou fighting. That sounds really stupid when I say it out loud, but she nearly defeats the tiger. Tom actually manages to cast a protection spell, but Who tries to suck them into her umbrella. Tom is nearly sucked completely in, but he looks into Who's eyes and he sees the soul of his grandmother. He breaks free of it, but Who is sucked in instead. Tom basically tries to fight her, but she deliberately throws her umbrella off the roof. She then evilly taunts him as Tom fights her, getting in some good hits before she knocks him down. And is at this point I gotta point something out. We get a very slow-mo shot of Tom's shoe kicking into her, and it holds on it just long enough so you can see the shoe's logo real nice and good in the frame. So it's like, okay, we're doing product placement now. Really?
Yeah.
That's probably how they had to fund the movie. It's like the shoe company said, oh, put our shoe in the movie and we'll finish it for you.
Product placement! Without Adam Sandler!
I will say that I honestly didn't notice that at first. It's only until you guys mentioned it that I was like, did they? I really don't think that was intentional product placement or anything. I just thought it was just an awkward shot that they just threw in because reasons.
Yep. But what happens next is Lou taunts him again, claiming that she saw how weak he was when he killed her grandmother, and she mocks him for not having his little tiger to save him. On the ground, we see Sydney, Monkey, and Raw try to catch the umbrella before they get caught in the trash can. Again, Rav is taking this surprisingly well. Lou then uses the Phoenix power to turn people into stone, forcing Tom to watch as she does so. And it's here we get to the moment of this movie that annoyed me the most. Excuse me. And then a very anticlimactic scene. Monkey just casts a spell, and all of the warriors are instantly freed. It was that easy. She literally just waves her hands and casts a spell, and all the Zodiac Warriors just pop out of the umbrella like it never happened. And this was such an anticlimax. They had to have done it better before. Shark, you were saying?
Yeah, also here, I think there's a continuity error, or at least there was a scene that got cut, because when the warriors are released, you can see Mistral among them, even though we never saw in any shot her being captured or arriving. She's just there with the others.
Yeah, I was just about to mention that. It is so weird. It definitely feels like either something was cut or like something was deleted because,
Yeah, like a shot where we see her get captured or something like, or at least flying down after everyone is released.
She probably was. She probably did fly down after everyone was freed. We probably could be remembering that. I'm not sure.
That's all right.
But yeah, she probably did that instead of flying out of the umbrella.
Anyway, Matt, you were saying?
The part that actually got me the most was in a couple seconds right after this, where they all assembled in a line. Who basically says "Zodiacs assemble," and there's a big explosion behind them because Avengers is popular.
Yeah, it's not as badass as the walk scene from Monsters Inc. That's for sure.
Yep.
Good lordy.
It turns out that Rav's soul is stolen as well, as Lou taunts Tom about this. The warriors all climb the building as they all fight the Yaogwai in various ways, sort of exactly like the intro. And again, Goat again is very annoying. Tom says Zodiac up, which 100% that would have been the catchphrase if this became a TV show. Every
Yes.
episode they would have said Zodiac up in some way, shape, or form. Sharvoun, you were saying?
Honestly, this is where the spinning camera thing gets on my nerves the most because it makes everything a little too hard to see and doesn't really give the audience much time to really appreciate what's in front of them. I'm sorry, it's just this.
I can see it. I can see it.
animation
Yeah,
annoys me.
No, I get where you're coming from. Math.
This is the third or fourth time Tom tries to push the Zodiac up line, and every time I could only think, quit trying to make fetch happen. Fetch is not going to happen.
Exactly. That is the perfect way to put it. But
honestly, Fetch is the least of this film's worries, as it has everything else going for it. It's got Kung Fu Panda, Rise of the Guardians, Avengers, Doctor Strange.
It rips off everything. Basically, everything it rips off. But what happens is all of them fight her, with the weirdest one being Dog, who just licks her for some reason, and that counts as an attack. Okay.
I mean, Pokemon it paralyzes, and it kind of stunned her for a brief moment. So
I guess
doing something right.
But what happens is Lou says that they are all too late as the sun sets, causing her to be all powerful. She then knocks all the warriors away as Tom remembers what his grandmother told him. He then realizes that fighting is pointless, and he instead walks up to the necklace and grabs it as Lou screams at him to stop. So now we're ripping off Pokemon the first movie, but not as good, because I actually felt something when Pikachu stopped fighting and just got beat the hell up by his clone. I don't feel anything about this.
Okay, less Pokemon on that one, and more it bouncing back to what Grandma said near the beginning of the film. Like, here is where everything ultimately comes together, as it were. Loosely, but it still comes together. But yeah, I will admit this definitely did feel like another thing being ripped off at the time, though not completely.
Also, you're an Academy Award-winning actress, Michelle. Put some effort in the know.
Yeah, I definitely can see that. But what happens is Tom grabs basically grabs the necklace, and he travels into the spirit world, where he approaches the thrashing phoenix and touches it, turning it a bright gold. So now we're just doing Moana, apparently, as well. But we then cut to him outside the spirit world, where basically, this is why I said the training was pointless, because Tom basically defeats her by her... Basically, Lou says, "You will never win." Tom basically goes, "No, you," and she disintegrates. That is the climax.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Yep.
It's not.
I mean,
If I make it sound cool, it's not.
No, it sounds
it's not
amazing
as
in the
bad.
dumbest way possible.
I mean, it's not as bad as Lud makes it out to be, and it does ultimately, again, fit with the theme that Grandma ultimately put in at the beginning. There was a way to beat Lou, and she kind of ultimately gave him that answer, and it comes in full circle right here. But I will admit, it kind of does undermine the fighting and whatnot. But again, that the whole point is that freaking Lou is evil, and therefore she getting rid of her is like trying to get rid of evil. And thanks to the Phoenix, that was possible. It's like Unicron, except, a little less impressive and more worldly instead of universal.
Yeah, but still, the thing will always feel like the best way to defeat evil is to go, "No, you," and that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, it worked for Kai, but it worked for Yugi.
Yeah, I guess, but here it is not nearly as cool as that. But what happens is Tom then uses the powers of the Phoenix to bring everybody's souls back. And Math, go ahead.
Yeah, when I watched that disintegration, all I could think was Tom must have got his training from Uncle. Violence cannot defeat magic. Magic must defeat magic!
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Exodia!
Jackie Chan Adventures is way better than this. And
Yes.
it has better versions of the Zodiac. That too.
Drat! I've been foiled by the power of love! Or rather, as Michelle would do,
Nice.
Drat, I was foiled by the power of love.
But yeah. What What?
Yeah, that was
Shark, go
how
ahead.
Queen Chrysalis was defeated too.
Yeah.
True, that is also
Except
true.
she wasn't obliterated. She was just turned to stone or sent off Team Rocket style.
That too. But what happens is after Tom brings everybody's souls back, he then collapses to the ground, which looks unintentionally hilarious to me. I'm sorry, it actually looked funny. But who ends up begging for Tom to wake up as the ghost cart comes? Mistral tells him to go to the Empress to get Tom back, and they all send Who to the spirit world as the Empress appears, saying that Tom is beyond salvation. But Who offers part of his soul to revive Tom as they join souls together, which ends up reviving the boy. Who is now a white tiger, having given a part of him to Tom, which also means that that I cannot make a Father of the Pride reference because those are white lions, not white tigers. Oops.
Yeah. I mean, wasn't there a white tiger though? I remember there being a white tiger.
I don't recall. But anyway, Sydney makes a joke about tigers actually do changing their stripes. We then cut back to the temple where Tom is officially made a guardian. Rav is also there for some reason. Apparently, she is let into the secret too. Sharvoun, go ahead.
First of all, white bears. Oh my. Second, yes. Did we ever get confirmation on whether or not those two are, like a couple or
Yeah.
something?
No, never.
Not really, no. Anyways.
Yep. But what happens is basically Who gives Tom a gift that appears to be empty, but Sydney stole it. It turns out to be a key to his shop, which will be Tom's new home. We then start the end credits, which they play Eye of the Tiger over it. And in a mid-credits sequence, we see that Tom now also has the ability to turn to a tiger.
Oh man, this was okay. I know a lot of people here are probably going to say this wasn't that impressive, but and it was kind of foreshadowed all things good, but it was kind of wild seeing Tom have that ability unlocked out of the blue, and he looks amazing as a tiger. I don't care what anyone says.
To me,
I am.
Second.
Yeah, it was freaking wild. Not gonna lie, it's easily one of the best moments.
And Matt?
Math.
Yeah. First, for as much as I really did not like the soundtrack of this movie, at the very least, this is the kind of Eye of the Tiger playing in a movie called Tiger's Apprentice is at least the kind of schlock that I expected from a movie like this. So I don't dislike this one, but as soon as I saw that transformation, I was like, so when's the series coming?
Yeah,
this
I
definitely
wanted to
would
see
have
the
gotten a
series, too.
series, but this is not going to get it because this basically. And just one more thing I want to say, and then we'll talk about the thing. But I guess because they played Eye of the Tiger in the end credits, that means that the Tiger's Apprentice 2 is going to have Tom fighting against Ivan Drago. I must break you.
I must break you.
I'm sorry,
He
but
dies.
yeah, if the franchise,
paper, Batman.
if the franchise dies, it dies. And it did, because this movie went direct to Paramount Plus. It got mostly really negative reviews. And to me, it's a 5 out of 10 movie. And I feel so bad for the animators who put so much blood and sweat and tears into this really mid movie that they were like horribly abused, horribly everything. It was horrible to begin with. But they didn't even get anything good out of it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, there were some good moments in this, and to be fair, again, Paramount Plus learned from Disney Plus. They did not pull the same mistake that they did with Lightyear, because if they did, that would have again been a 100% major career suicide.
Honestly, the whole film had so much potential, but was bogged down by the script. It's as George Clooney once said, "I can make a bad movie with a good script, but I can't make a good movie with a bad script."
And pacing.
Yep. But now it is time for the question of the week, which is, what is your favorite mythology media? And I'm going to go first because I have a really easy answer for that. Harryhausen's Greek movies, which consist of Chasing the Argonauts and Clash of the Titans. Jason the Argonauts, at least, will definitely be on the podcast in the future, so I look forward to that. But yeah,
I
there's
am.
something about those movies that are just so mind-blowing. Like, stop motion is something that always ages well, but this stuff is still as mind-blowingly amazing as it was back then. And it also helps that, unlike a lot of the other Italian Hercules movies that are made at the same time, this had a really gripping story and really good like narrative in that too. Because again, a lot of the Italian Hercules movies that came out after the Steve Reeves ones, including some of the Steve Reeves sequels, really were not that good, unfortunately. But these are movies that really just is amazing. Jason the Argonauts, I think, is so good. But that's not to discount Clash of the Titans, which, for a movie made in 1981, it feels both dated and ahead of its time in so many ways. And yes, people, I even like Bubo the Mechanical Owl. And the remake making fun of Bubo the Mechanical Owl is one of the many reasons why it is a terrible movie.
I liked that movie. I liked Booba.
I just you lost me, you know? You absolutely lost me with it. But I feel like, again, Harryhausen got Greek mythology in ways that a lot of filmmakers didn't. And granted, you can't do like a 100% mythologically accurate movie set with Greek mythology, because then you would have like an X-rated film. You know, it would be the most violent sexual movie ever made. But regardless, it is still, these movies are some of my favorites for reasons. Their special effects are mind-blowing. The acting is great. The story is great. Cinematography is great. And yeah, we will definitely talk more about that on the podcast, as well as a Italian Hercules movie from the 60s. That'll be an interesting one. But that's my choice, Jason the Argonauts and Clash of the Titans. So, Angron, what would you say is your favorite?
Oh dear, that is a very, very tough one. Because on the one hand, I could say Hercules for being a great Disney Greek film, and I could
Good
possibly
choice.
also say, oh boy, there are a lot of Japanese movies that I could absolutely say were amazing. But on the other hand, oh god, I am absolutely gonna pull a pull a fast one here and say Secret of Kells. That is easily one of, if not the most influential movies. It not only introduced Nordic mythology, but Celtic mythology. Pardon.
Thank you.
But it absolutely was a stunning visual to see. Crom Cruach, like just everything about it was amazing.
Yeah, I definitely can.
The animation, the art style. This would be something that would inspire Wolfwalkers, which is another good mythological film that I also like. And yeah, it's kind of bogged down by a few slow moments, but it's still a great film. Okay, you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna say Wolfwalkers, because as much as I enjoy Secret of Kells, I think Wolfwalkers 100% deserves it a bit more. It tells Irish folklore a lot better than one would think, and it's amazing. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna say Wolfwalkers. Totally not because I'm biased, because of werewolves. Better than vampires. Fight me in lows.
Yeah, it's just definitely.
I will not argue with that. I will not argue with that.
Same.
Next.
So, yep, let's see. Matt, what would your favorite be?
Obvious special shout out to a lot of the Disney Renaissance movies like Hercules or Atlantis. I prefer to look at the lesser known ones, and I think that this movie really deserves a lot more attention than it got. I'm with Angron on this. Wolfwalkers.
Yes.
Nice.
Movie was absolutely gorgeous. Cartoon Saloon does the best 2D animated movies right now, and it's a very good story, and the way the characters are designed and how you can tell what a character is just by
Yep, that's
looking at them.
really great choice right there. So let's see, Stryker, what would your favorite be?
What was the question again?
What is your favorite mythological movie?
Oh, that's obvious for me. Hercules. I grew up with a lot of these Disney Renaissance movies, and that one absolutely stuck out to me. I know this is broken record at this point with a lot of Disney movies, but like, I mean, like with it's like super like it's like critically acclaimed and all, but like I don't know. I enjoyed this one very much. I could also give a special shout out to Kubo and the Two Strings, which that made me cry at the end.
Nice.
But
I
like,
can see why.
but like, Hercules just hits, just works better for me.
Mm.
Mainly because I did not actually watch all of Kubo and the Two Strings when I first saw it.
Mm.
I definitely need a time and place to watch Kubo one of these days.
Nice. You really
Yeah.
should.
But yeah,
Nice,
Hercules.
nice.
Herc.
That's a great choice. Great choice. Shark?
Yeah, I'll be continuing this common answer and say Disney Hercules too.
Ha!
Yes.
Yeah, probably gonna be heard a lot, but yeah, the music is great. They instead of doing like epic songs, they went full Broadway. The villain Hades is so
Actually-
funny.
Actually, the musical numbers, most of them are all gospel inspired.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, what I meant is rather than being something of the time, they decided to go
Right.
full modern with it. They gave it a modern take to the music there.
Yeah, actually, I agree with that.
I'm gonna be quick. The villain Hades is funny. The art of the
Yes.
direction
Hades
looks
is-
glorious,
Hades-
amazing. The characters are great. So yeah, Heracles too.
James Woods as Hades is iconic
Oh, yeah.
for so many reasons.
He made his own version of Hades,
Yes!
and that is still like a classic. That's still like the classic version of the villain.
Tell me about
Yeah. Yeah.
Only one that could
James
rival him
Woods.
in comedy is the one from Kid Icarus Uprising.
Yeah. Yeah.
James Woods will always be Hades.
Yes.
While it isn't the accurate version, while it isn't an accurate depiction,
We don't care.
we don't really care at all. It's Hades. It's James Woods' version of Hades. It's perfect.
Again, we don't care. It's James Woods at Hades.
Yes.
Yeah,
That-
exactly.
He still plays him in Kingdom Hearts.
He
Yes.
plays him in everything. He said he will reprise the role for any time, anywhere, anything.
At the drop
and
of
he
a
does.
hat.
He
Good
does.
man.
He really does. Yep,
Yes.
he really does. So let's see who's next. Lucky Eevee, what would yours be?
Honestly, Digimon.
Yeah.
Oh?
Ooh.
Does that
What?
count as,
You
like,
got like Christianity, you got Shinto, you got Buddhism, you got all the myths.
Actually, you're right about that.
Fair
Yeah, you
enough.
have Christianity, you have Greek, you have Shinto, you have Buddha. Every myth you could think of has a Digimon when presenting it.
Okay. I mean, Shimigami
Actually, you're
Tensei
right.
would have been a little more accurate, but okay.
Actually, yeah, that too. I will also give special shout out to SMT and Persona.
Like the Olympus 13 are literally just the Greek gods.
Mm,
Right?
Nice.
You're
Wow.
very much right about that, Lucky.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely was
fair.
not expecting that one. Wow. And let's see, Sharvoun, what would yours be?
I would have said Secret of Kells, but since Angron or Maggie already
can
mentioned,
say that.
Angron already mentioned, I'm actually going to go with Coco.
Oh,
That
nice.
yeah, that's a
It-
good one. That's a great
Coco!
choice, actually.
Like it's
Yeah.
Oh,
it is.
that's my
it's
favorite
beautiful
Pixar movie.
Mine
Mm.
too. It's peak Pixar animation, and it's in my opinion one of the best looking Land of the Dead's out there. It feels livable. It's colorful, and it's just gorgeous. On top of that, the themes really do tie into Mexican culture, and it's just a film that just sort of embraces itself in in Mexican culture and mythology. It's just a wonderful movie. I would have gone with Secret of Kells, but since it's already been mentioned, I kind of like to root for the underdog, so Coco's my favorite mythology movie.
Mm.
Right.
Yep. So yeah, those are all really amazing choices there. And Jordan said that her favorite, I believe, was hold on, let me get this. She said that her favorite was The Adventures of Hercules as well as Xena the Warrior Princess, the 90s TV shows. Pretty good choice right there.
Yep.
Yep. So now it is time for the patent pending Dragoness Scale, where we'll rank her from 1 to 10. Now, Mistral's going to be interesting because she, far and away, was the best part of this movie, bar none. Like without her, this movie would have been probably a 3 out of 10 for me, to be honest with you. But like I said, I don't know if I can give her a perfect score though, because I don't know. I like, not to compare apples and oranges here, but I like Sisu a little bit better than Mistral. Maybe it's that Sisu has more of a playful personality. Maybe that, I don't know, I like Sisu's more noodly design a little more. I'm not saying Mistral's bad. She's great. And Sandra Oh's voice performance really does a good job. I love the visible scales. I just love that, she's such a great character. She really should have been the apprentice, should have been the master rather than who. She should have been 150%. I'll agree with you on that. But in terms of the scale, I'm going to give her a 9 out of 10. I cannot give her a perfect 10. And in my conscience, I cannot give her a perfect score. I'm sorry. I really would like to, but something just holds her back for me. But she is easily the best part of the film, and she is the best animated part of the film. Angron?
I will say this. Yeah, I agree with everything, though I will say this, in spite of the movie and in spite of the fact that she doesn't have too much time spent with her, I will say this: she carries the movie. Like Sisu, she 100% carries it. But I feel she's better than Sisu because her design is a little better. Both her dragon one and her human one. Like seriously, I like this human version better than I do Sisu's human version. Like it's just basically Aquafina as Aquafina in a human form. But come on, but yeah, I will say this: she absolutely is one of, if not the best best dragons out there, and it's for that reason. Like I kind of want to give her a better score, but I kind of have to agree. The movie held her back a little bit. The pacing held her back a little bit. It's not her fault, and for that, I'm giving her a 9 out of 10.
Okay, all good. I can understand your reasoning there. Let's see. Math, what would you give her?
Mine isn't quite as high, but it's still a pretty good rating. I'm going with an 8. I do like her character in the movie. She's easily the best character by far, which I know, high bar in this movie. What holds her back a bit for me is that and this one is purely me. I didn't like her human design that much. I don't think any of the human characters actually look good, but with her, just it looks better than most of them. And this one is where it gets really personal. I've just never liked the side shave, and just something looks off about her character when she's human. As a dragoness, she looks great. I do like that. It still has that this was made about 2009 quality, but hers is more like it was made about 2013, 2014. So at least it does look better. It's just that this movie really holds her back. And I think that if she was in another production, she would have been a 9 or even a 10 character. It's the movie that hurts her more than anything else.
I definitely can see that, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, again, the movie I feel also kind of drags her down. I think that's why another reason why I couldn't give her a perfect score either is because again, it's really just it's hard to explain, but if you see it, then you kind of get it. Yep. So let's see, Stryker, what would you give her?
I'm sorry, guys. I kind of have to go a little middle of the road here with a 5 because I really just thought the character was meh to me.
Ooh.
All right. Any particular reason or?
They felt like they were trying to make another Sisu, and it just didn't work.
She's more dynamic than that. She's wise, yet ultimately has a playful side, and she's a lot more. She's a little more no nonsense, and yet she has a fun time doing it. She's honestly a lot better than Sisu in that regard.
I don't know. I had a connection to Sisu was all.
That's
Same.
fair.
I can understand that.
Yeah,
See,
I just never really. I just for some
You didn't-
reason didn't really enjoy her character in the movie. And yeah,
didn't like-
the movie. I do have to agree with all of you on this. The movie really dragged her down.
Yeah, unfortunately. So, Shark, what would you give her?
Well, I'm gonna bring her up again with an 8 because I really like the design. I really like both forms of hair. And like we mentioned it, the movie could have easily made her the serious member, the only one that is focused on the mission. But no, she's the heart, as we mentioned it. So that's a subversion from the usual wise dragon troop and all that stuff. Yeah, like I mentioned, I like how her scales reflect different color. And her human form is actually good looking. But things that holding her down is she's not a main character, and I mean she's one of the most important easily, but like she doesn't receive as much focus as you think she do. Sisu definitely did that way better. And yeah, also it drags her down. The movie itself drags her down because while this movie and Raja are in a mixed bag, I will rewatch Raja to watch more Sisu, but I don't think I will rewatch this movie to see more of Mistral.
That's fair.
Same. So, let's see. Eevee, what would you give her?
I guess I don't really have.
Hey,
Sorry?
it's up to you, man.
Well, what would you give her?
Like,
You
8?
said an 8.
Okay, all good. 8 out of 10 works. Jordan, before she left, decided to give Mistral a 5 out of 10, and then Sharvoun, what would you give her?
I give her a 0.
What?
Yeah.
What?
No.
I'm just kidding. I'm gonna
That's
give
okay.
her an even. I'm gonna give her a 7.
Okay.
I'm not the biggest fan of. I'm not the biggest fan of her dragoness form. I don't know why, but while the eyes are kind of cool, the rest kind of looks off to me. But her human design is fire, and her personality is great. And once again, Sandra Oh does a great job with what she's given, even if what she's given is very little. Also, I feel like she plays more the jilted lover, kind of like that female dog played by Susan Sarandon in Cats and Dogs to Alec Baldwin's Bush, but she does it well. But like everyone said, the movie kind of dragged her down. Like this was a choppy, incoherent, rushed movie that could have been great. But she does stand out. Honestly, I want to give her a massage because her back must hurt from holding this movie, from carrying.
I know, right?
Yep, I understand. Yep, it's all good. So that's going to be it for this episode, which is officially our longest one yet, surprisingly.
Yeah.
Long. Yep, it was as long as Mistral herself. If you have any questions, or if you want to send us of ways you would make the GOAT a more tolerable character, you can email us at fierydiscourse@outlook.com. Visit us on YouTube at youtube.com/Ludmillanon. Be sure to go to our Twitter at twitter.com/fierydiscourse. Be sure to like and subscribe and save the playlist and hit that bell for the notification. Next week, we'll be discussing the 1999 Johnny Bravo episode, Loch Ness Johnny. Hey, mama, it's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm not gonna want to marry the moose.
Whoa, pretty innocent.
Unfortunately, not that one, but
Whoa,
it'll be
mama.
pretty good.
Did
But
you guys
that'll
already
be it for
cover
this
Courage
week.
the Cowardly Dog?
Yep, we did.
Yeah.
It's all right. But that's okay. That'll be it for this week. And until next week, thank you guys so much for watching and listening, rather. And take care.
Bye bye.
Bye.
I like the
So-
goat.
Adios.